Yes,
You introduce it, Amir.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, but let's go.
Go.
Welcome to another episode of Political Dregs.
No, that's terrible. Calvin, you do it.
All right. Shh. Welcome back. This is Political Dregs. We've been on hiatus. Here we are. We're in lockdown. I'm Calvin. With me is Joel, Hamish, and Amir. How you doing, guys?
Hi, Calvin.
It's literally been, 2 months of lockdown and a lack of dregs?
Happy lockdown, everyone. We've had people liking the show continually. They must be so bored, but we keep getting likes on Facebook and all sorts. So it just shows the dregs that people are stooping to get some good political content. But personally, I'm delighted to be back.
We thought we might as well come back and discuss the current state of affairs because so much has happened since our last podcast. Pretty much martial law came into play. We predicted a lot of things that have happened as well. Well, Joel in particular.
Have died.
Sorry, Amir?
Many people have died.
Well, yes.
Yeah, keeping it light, great. Keeping it light. I just like to. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I've been bookshelf ready since before the lockdown, so no one can accuse me of having sort of put this together for this call. This was the keen-eyed amongst you will have seen that this is my usual backdrop. So you won't find any David Irving on my shelves.
The Globe Vernica has been there for a while.
It has.
Amir and I are businessmen. We don't read books.
You chaps need like a Zoom background or something.
Yeah.
I've got a dynamic background that's keeping you hypnotized.
Yeah.
So that when I speak, you believe everything I say.
Your helicopter hats. Yeah, it's lovely. But, I mean, how's lockdown affecting you guys? How have you been?
Well, I've been working at home since the 17th of March, which has been very odd. My kitchen is now my office, and I've been it's been quite weird. But what's strange is how it's sort of become normal now. I mean, the idea of getting on the tube, going to work, and mingling with the great and the good
seems
seems very, very odd. And one of the things that I have found to be particularly strange is how quickly I've got used to queuing outside shops. You know, if you go to a supermarket, unless you go sort of in the middle of the working day, you queue outside, and that would have seemed extraordinary at the beginning of the year. But now you just sort of do it as a matter of course. Same with keeping your distance and crossing. People. Usually when people cross the road coming towards you, you take offence or you think they're a bit weird. But now it's almost a sort of polite gesture. It's very interesting.
It would be weird if they didn't, I suppose, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I've had a great tip right at the beginning, which is an inkling of where to go shopping, which was to Notting Hill. The Waitrose there, when there was real panic, and we thought that we were never going to be able to get toilet paper or any fresh produce again. I had a feeling that Notting Hill would be a good place to go because the denizens of Notting Hill had all buggered off to their country homes. So actually, I found that there was a minimal queue in the Waitrose Notting Hill, and it's been a mecca for me ever since. Actually, I've been going there all the time. So that's been my lockdown tip. Bit too late for everyone else, but there you go.
I hope you weren't stockpiling though.
Well, it's impossible there. You end up spending £100 on a tiny shop, so no, very difficult to stockpile there. But no, it's been extraordinary times. And the other thing I will say is that in terms of childcare as a parent, it really is essential that we address that for the good of the country. I know, Calvin did a brilliant job yesterday on 5 Live, but it's absolutely appalling the impact that this is having on parents, families, the economy, not being able to have childcare. If you're having 2 parents working from home with also the necessity of looking after children, that is just impossible to do, and it's appalling for productivity. So the sooner we can get that sorted, the better. So I know that nurseries, from my perspective, are going back on the 1st of June, which is fantastic, but I think that schools absolutely should as well, wherever possible.
I think that's a point that I would disagree with you on, though, Joel. I think I've been arguing for schools to return on the basis that disadvantaged children are missing out on learning because they don't have access to electronic devices in the home, or they don't have internet. But I don't agree with sending children back for the sake of childcare. I don't think schools are childcare providers. I think we are there to impart knowledge. Certainly when I became a teacher, I didn't think, I want to look after children. I thought I want to teach my subject. And I think that's been shown up in the nation recently, in that a lot of people are saying, get our kids back to school, get them out of our way. It's not my job to look after your child. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it is during the day, to be fair. I mean, what do you expect?
In locum parentis only because they're in our care in the facility that we are in and teaching them. Yeah. It's not our job to wipe their asses.
Their primary job is not to take care of your children.
Yeah, but you can't expect parents to look after their kids.
Can't expect parents to look after their own bloody kids. What?
Well, I mean,
are we saying we're never going to have school again?
If someone is taking that massive responsibility of having a child, then they should also rise up to the challenge when they need to take care of their children when there's no one
all day, every day.
Sure, why not?
Guys,
That's ridiculous.
We need people.
Why are you having kids if you're not willing to take care of your kids?
All the time. This is crazy.
18 years, they're your responsibility. Yeah, all the time.
Every single day.
Every single minute of the day that your child is under 18, they're your responsibility.
A lot of responsibility, yeah, but not to look after them in person all the time, every day.
A lot of people don't work from home because they have to work on location, whether that's in construction or whether they work in the health service or other things, and those people need to be at work. We are definitely in recession. We saw from the Q1 figures that only had a few days or a few weeks of lockdown that the economy was in recession. So obviously we're in recession now. We need people to be out doing work, and they need to be able to have their kids at school or in childcare when they're doing that. Otherwise, we're simply going to ground to a halt. And I have a lot of sympathy for people who want to make sure that there's complete safety and everything is being done properly. Absolutely. But we know that the transmission rates for children are lower, and that we also know that we cannot simply shut down the world until this is over, because frankly we don't know when that's going to be.
Indeed. What does over mean? It's not very likely we'll discover a vaccine in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what this has shown actually is a large proportion of problems across the whole country. There is people were talking at the beginning how this virus doesn't discriminate, but what we've come to learn is actually there is discrimination, where if you come from a lower social class where you don't have a massive country mansion, you don't have means to get away from your tiny apartment which doesn't have a terrace, which doesn't have a garden, then there is disparity, and it's evident now that this virus is affecting people from the poorer social classes much more significantly, especially those who can't afford to buy their shopping from Apado or Tesco delivery, or maybe they can't even go to do grocery shopping. They're relying on the food bank, and the food banks were having a massive crisis because they're running out of food, because a lot of the food was based on donations from chains, which obviously had to close down, restaurant chains, etc. So the point is that this virus has shown a significant disproportion in how people are able to survive on a day-to-day basis, and the wealthy have really got away with this much better than the poorer in the society. And often it's found that the poorer are from the Black, Asian, minority, ethnic communities, and that's what seems to be evident in how people are struggling through this crisis. And then the other thing is, obviously, that we've got a massive education problem. You're telling people to stay at home, and people aren't staying at home. So what's going wrong? There's a serious problem there.
I mean, whether it's childcare or whether it's welfare of children, the reality is that wherever possible, we should be trying to get children educated again. This crisis has thrown up loads of issues around care and the way that we look after the vulnerable. of all ages, in fact, and the seniors as well. I mean, look, the care homes crisis is another thing that I think is going to rumble on for a long time. We're going to see a huge inquiry into the care home system and what's happened there, because that is a really unsatisfactory mishmash of private sector providers for essentially a public service, and I think we're seeing that really unravel as well. So, all sorts of questions around how we look after the vulnerable in our society as a result of this. Definitely,
I think that's a good point. I think a lot of the questions have been raised about domestic abuse going on at home, and also talking about children that are safer at school rather than being at home, and that's another reason to open schools. All these flags have been raised, and to me it's kind of saying, well, these are underlying issues that need to be addressed, and returning to what was the normal before isn't a fix. That isn't solving these problems. If domestic abuse is going on at home, whether it's adults or children involved, we need to have better social services and better procedures to handle that, rather than just, okay, well, they'll get a cooked meal while they're at school. That's not good enough. We need to make sure that the children are getting a cooked meal at home. And if partners are being abused, there needs to be better ways of reaching out to them and helping. And I don't think we have a solution yet, but all these issues have been highlighted.
Well, they've been highlighted, but the government unfortunately keeps on not addressing the real issues. I mean, you've got the care minister not really addressing issues of the problems in care homes. You've got the political opposition parties who are not really holding government to account, not being an opposing force. The fact that Piers Morgan is the voice of the opposition tells you everything you need to know about the politics in our current society right now. It's completely broken. It's completely unaccountable, and we live in this is the worst crisis since World War II. So why don't we have a unity government? I don't know.
Well, we could do why have a unity government.
Maybe these issues could have been addressed much earlier.
Why on earth should we have a unity government? We elected a government in an election, and when we did that, we said that we want these people in charge, and that wasn't caveated. There are certain circumstances where you have a unity. There are examples in this country of unity governments. Really, it's the Second World War, and that was mostly because they suspended elections, right?
The mayoral election that was meant to happen in May.
Okay.
That kind of
okay, but let's get real. The Mayor of London doesn't actually do anything. What we
doesn't even run TfL anymore, mate.
The idea that you just sort of every sort of disaster or issue that comes along, let's have a unity government. It's just nonsense. I mean, that is what governing a country is about.
They didn't have a mandate to
I'm sorry.
They didn't have a mandate to take unprecedented amounts of loans.
Look, they are the government. They are the government. Right?
They had a mandate to deliver Brexit, which they did. Okay?
They are the government.
They had a mandate to fix the economy.
To govern. They have a mandate to govern and take appropriate action within the law and to legislate. Right? The way that politics works, the way that British politics works, is not every time something comes up, you ask the people, do you want this? Do you want that? Right? They're the government, right? They've been doing a job which some people you can criticise some of the aspects of what they've been done. I think they've done very well on certain things. I think they've fallen short on others. And I think there have been a lot of problems. Actually, I'm more interested in the sort of structural problems that we've had, which I don't think you can pin on any one particular government. But the fact that we had all this PPE that was out of date and all those sorts of things, that points to a sort of preparedness issue. But no, we don't need it. And actually, I think Keir Starmer has been doing a pretty good job, actually, of holding the government to account and asking the reasonable, incisive questions. So, I think. Well, yes, that's a bit tedious. That just when you see political journalists say that, it just demonstrates to me that they've never seen anyone ask a particularly probing question before.
Forensics are Keir so popular with the country that Labour are on 33% still. He can be as forensic as he likes, but if people don't like him and think he's smug and out of touch, then he's not going to win an election.
Hamish, just to get back to the point, look, I'm not saying we definitely needed to have a unity government. I'm saying the government's made a lot of errors, and our opposing parties haven't been effective in so much as that Piers Morgan is the opposition party of this country.
I don't know what that means. I mean, I really don't know what
he's holding the government ministers to account. The government ministers are afraid to engage with him. He's the one that's...
I think you're buying into Piers Morgan's...
I'm not buying into anything.
I think you're buying into his hype a little bit.
I watch him on Good Morning Britain in the morning, and I've watched his interviews with government ministers. I'm not buying into anything. I'm just listening to the questions. I'm listening to the answers.
Sure.
And they don't have answers, and he has good questions. That's all.
Okay. But, it's very easy to ask a question that doesn't have an answer and think that you've made some sort of point. I think, actually... of all the people that I've seen questioning the government, from journalists, from the public, and politicians, Keir Starmer has actually been the most effective in asking questions that expose, actual issues that can be dealt with. Saying, why did you not do this hypothetical thing or whatever, is sort of a bit irrelevant. But actually, what Keir Starmer has been doing is, you've said X, or you said that you would do X, and you have not done it. Why?
Yeah.
That is a good question. That is holding people to account. Piers Morgan huffing and puffing, and as far as I'm concerned...
No, I don't think that's fair. I don't think you're being fair to him at all. I think
you know what, to be honest with you, I don't watch him because he's a bit of a blowhard.
Well, I think, Sir Keir has asked a few questions, but what people have wanted to see was an emotive response, which is what Piers has been giving. So I think that's probably why Amir's buying into that. But I mean, I think the government have definitely done well in terms of the NHS.
Our NHS.
The NHS. If there'd been any signs of hospitals not being able to cope, hospitals collapsing under pressure, or some of the scenes that we saw in Italy with patients dying in corridors, we would have had literally riots on the street, probably organised by some of the hard left. That's not happened, and they've been very muted on that. So I think they've done a really good job on that, but they've not. There is definitely questions to ask on care homes and what's happening with that structure, and I don't think the government have got sufficient answers to that at the moment, and that is what Piers was good on, I would say.
Have we been clapping for our carers?
I was going to raise that. I think there's an issue here around our NHS in that it has become the new national religion. You're not even allowed to mention the NHS if it's even remotely critical at the moment, because obviously people who work for the NHS are doing a fantastic job at saving lives. But the NHS as an institution is being held up as the golden calf, and this clapping every Thursday. I mean, the first week was nice. That was touching. It was good move. A little bit anti-British. We don't kind of do that thing, but it was a nice thing to do. To do this repeatedly every week is becoming ritualistic. It's becoming, why isn't Mrs. Jones out clapping today? Does she not care about our NHS? It's all a bit too cultish to me.
Do you feel the pressure to go on your doorstep?
Oh, absolutely not. I don't. I went out the first night because I thought it was great. After that, I don't go out anymore. I'm not going to be held to ransom. I'm not going to be forced to do it.
Amir, have you been clapping for the NHS?
I've been clapping. I've been clapping in my heart.
Right. No, interestingly, the Lib Dem, no. Joel?
I don't do it anymore, no.
Why is that? That's interesting, because I also did it a couple of times, but have stopped, and I wonder if your reason is the same as mine.
Well, initially I was pretty reticent because I thought they can't hear you. See,
with me they can, because the Royal Free is literally...
Oh, well, that's true. Wonderful institution, actually. But and since then, I just feel that the government have thrown money at the NHS. The people have been working hard, yes. The hospitals have had it under control, but my question is, why do we never ever hear from these highly paid procurement managers for the NHS? Even Hamish said it was the government problem about PPE. But surely there's been unlimited money and budgets to find PPE, and there is Aquango, NHS England, or whatever it's called, NHS purchasers, people on very big salaries whose job it is to find PPE. Why are they never ever hauled over the coals over this? I just don't understand it. Why are there never questions asked? Why have you not been? This is your job. There is someone in the NHS whose job it is to get PPE. Surely
they're too busy. They're too busy swanning around saying they work for the NHS and how wonderful they are. No,
that is a complete mystery to me.
Yeah, they should all be sacked and then killed. The reason I stopped, so I was clapping at my window, even though I did feel slightly coerced into doing it. But I stopped when I saw the TikTok videos of nurses and other health workers in hospital corridors with, in their scrubs doing coordinated dances and things like that. Because frankly, I thought if you've got time during the working day to do that, then you don't need me to clap for you, especially when I'm paying huge amounts of tax to pay for you sitting there doing that. So frankly, I'm not doing it anymore.
And seeing the police doing those videos as well, my God, absolutely.
I know. When they're, surely they've got lakes to die and people shopping to inspect.
But the one
and
on
that's the other
Westminster
thing, by the way. Sorry, the other thing I just to say about that is that there's this great notion that we have, it's complete fiction in this country, that we are sort of freedom-loving, ourselves alone people fighting against fascism and totalitarianism, and it's completely bollocks. The only thing that stopped us becoming, having an authoritarian, totalitarian regime is our institutions. Because as we've seen from this lockdown, the people in this country are completely willing to go along with any sort of, authoritarian restrictions and dob in their neighbours next door. And the police are very excited about the prospect of nosing around our shopping bags and telling us that we can't be in our front gardens. I mean, I've never seen, clearly we are completely apt and lusty for fascism.
And whose fault is this? You're still not going to...
That's nonsense. There was
a take any
petition bloody protesting Hyde Park today. There's plenty of people banging on about liberty.
Not many.
Only some weirdos like Toby Young. No, everyone else has been taking to this.
Whose fault is this, Hamish? I mean, the environment, the fabric of a society is a culmination of years and years of our current politics, our current parties, and it's come to this. Yeah, you can't.
No, I don't.
You can't blame the people for being complicit to the continuous failure of governments, past and present, to educate people about the dangers of fascism and how we fought for our freedom and how we have to hold that as the most valuable thing in our lives.
It's human nature. It's human nature.
It's nothing to do with human nature.
What it is. Read Hannah Arendt, and what she, her philosophy and her studies on this. It's a psychological thing. The British have tried to kid themselves that they are that there's some sort of British exceptionalism that is resistant to this sort of thing. But the truth is, we are completely, we're wired like every other human being on the planet, and we're totally susceptible to this. We've been fortunate that we've never had it because our institutions have been resilient, but it's nothing to do with the British character.
I'm not sure about that. I think people see that this is a serious situation. They see it's a global pandemic, and British people are sensible enough to abide by the guidance, which wasn't too stringent. It was quite okay, and just get on with it. Whereas if you look at America, they've been absolutely nuts. Beaches in Florida packed with people from day one, continuously. Lockdown hasn't worked in so many states. I don't think it's inbred on us to be susceptible to fascism. I think America proves that wrong. But also, I agree.
Well, I think there aren't that many people protesting. I'm not saying we should. By the way, my view is that freedom is something which is very important, but it doesn't have to be constantly exercised in order to have it. So that's how I sort of intellectually get around the problem of saying, okay, well, I'm going to accept that I'm going to be put in lockdown for a few months because, I get the give and take there. What I don't get and what I will not do is download any app which gives the government
of
course not.
Information about where I am, who I'm seeing, where I'm going, and what I'm doing.
But, Hamish, not just that. I mean, for all of these grants, for all of these loans, for all of this money that we're trying to apply for, we have to give information to the government. It's exactly the same exercise, and you're talking about an app and your location in real time. But everything we're doing now is we're giving the government information about ourselves continuously. Just to get past this process.
Again, that's like because I'm not getting anything in return for the app, whereas you're getting a loan, which I'm paying for. So,
but there's no way through this without giving your information to the government, and it's extra information. It isn't necessarily the information that they already have. You have to basically tear apart your lives and give it to them,
Well,
so
if you want the government to bail you out, then I'm afraid that's going to be...
The government has intervened in this country. They closed everything down, and now I have to break my back to be bailed out. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, would you rather...
You've got some business interruption insurance.
Would you?
Yeah,
as if they'd have paid out. Insurance expert here.
I can't comment because for conflict and professional reasons. But
look, the reality is that the banks already want a lot of information from us, and now they're getting a lot more information.
The bank is not the government.
I think there's a massive difference between providing a bit of information to get a lump sum of money to having an app that tracks you all around wherever you go and reports that information directly to the government. I think that's bizarre.
There is a difference. But I'm just saying that all of these things point to the same thing, which is the government wants more control. The government wants to be in control.
I'm not sure the government does, actually. Looking at Boris Johnson and the Conservative government right now, I don't think... I've never seen... he didn't look like the sort of person that wanted to do this.
No, not at all. From day one, I agree with you.
Now, here's the other question. Churches and places of worship, shuls, temples, other places, they have been, at least the Church of England and the Roman Catholic Church in England, rather sort of controversially perhaps, have stopped, from quite early on, stopped all public worship. And in fact, I believe, Calvin, you correct me if I'm wrong, stopped priests going into their own churches alone in order to stream services. So we've had the sort of remarkable sight of seeing priests in their stoles and vestments and garbs in their kitchens praying and streaming services.
It's completely upsetting.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think the Church of England has screwed up big time here, and it's going to take a lot of recovering. The government explicitly said that religious institutions are exempt from the guidelines, as in clergy are allowed to go into their church and pray for their parish, because that's the whole reason of having a parish. You have a cure of souls. Everyone in your area is prayed for by you, and the people know that they're being prayed for, whether they turn up to church or not. It doesn't matter. But then the Church of England said, actually, no. Priests aren't allowed in their church. They have to set a good example for the rest of the lay people, which made absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Setting an example in what way? In that the clergy don't care for us anymore, or that anyway, bonkers. So a load of us wrote a letter to the Times and suggested that this is absolutely ridiculous, and that it would be nice if clergy were allowed in, even just to stream, so that people who are particularly vulnerable and elderly, and these people that would normally go to church every week, have some familiarity and they can see that their priest is praying for them in an environment.
So you don't even want to go back into church yourself.
No, not at all. I'm not. No, never have I said that people should be allowed back in church, even for private prayer.
Some people have,
which would be nice if it was social distancing. I'm sure that could work. But all we were asking for, is to let clergy back into church to pray on our behalf and to let us stream it. And I think the Archbishop of Canterbury made a point that, well, the church building is just a building and church is wherever people are, which is actually against church doctrine. A church building is a sacred, hallowed space, and it's important, and it's built up of prayer. You know, all these centuries of people, the history of prayer in that place means something to people. And it
seemed like the self-defeating Church of England at work again. It's bizarre.
The Roman Catholic, the Roman Catholic Church in England followed exactly the same rules.
So no, the Roman Catholic Church have allowed their clergy in throughout the whole time. So I've been watching Roman Catholic services because they're in their church, they're doing things properly.
Of course you have.
One step away from a conversion.
One foot in Rome, Robinson. 1 foot in Rome, Robinson.
Not at all. I follow our traditional Catholic ways the Church of England has
you didn't have your Lenten tambourine out in Holy Week, did you?
Tambourine. But anyway, we petitioned, we wrote a letter to the Times, over 800 clergy and laymen signed it, and the bishops met and they went back on what their guidance was and said, actually, it's okay, you can go back and do churches now. So that was resolved. But after this, people are going to be asking, what does our established church do if they're not looking out for the if not being compassionate and reaching out to look after ethics and morality and all these things in a global pandemic? this is the situation where you want them to be. Like, the government's talking about policy. The church should be looking after your spirit.
A huge vacuum
Massive.
in any sort of spiritual leadership. Actually, I have to say, not just from the Church of England, but from the other denominations and from the other faiths, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism. I haven't had any, and I read quite widely, listen to radio and things, and I haven't felt any sense of anyone giving any spiritual leadership. I suppose for Judaism it's slightly different, Joel, because Judaism can go on in the home, and that's one of the reasons that it's been, it's such a resilient religion, and it's not so tied to temple as Christianity may be. But I haven't heard much from the chief rabbi.
Well, I haven't heard much from him either, but a little bit harsh because liberal Judaism has continued with live stream services, and you're very welcome to join those. We have.
I'm more of a sort of independent conservative Jew myself.
Okay, well, we've had services Fridays and Saturdays streamed, so those have been good. But I think there is something special about the place of worship for me, and it's been really sad not to be able to go at all. But I do understand that there are reasons for that. But I would hope that at some point we can have some kind of social distanced personal prayer. Or
this vacuum that you're talking about it's in government, it's in spiritual leaders, it's everywhere in society. I mean,
well, the other thing that we've picked up on a number of themes here, which were called on this show. So I'd actually remember the show in January when we first started talking about this strange flu that had emerged.
Link below.
Yeah, link below. Just go back to that show and you will see I'm not lying. That show we absolutely talked about this strange flu that had emerged from China and what was going to happen with it back in January. And I remember saying...
Back in January when there was only 56 deaths.
Yeah. And we've had also a theme about the rise of China and its malign influence on the...
I don't want anyone to look back at these because I don't think I was on the right side of any of these.
No, you weren't. So please do look back on them. And I remember commenting on why on earth it was that we were still having thousands of flights coming in. I think Hamish actually said that we have a pretty good record of keeping these things under control from memory, but please do have a look.
You've rewatched it, you bastard.
But look, that's fine. Everyone gets things wrong now and again. But no, we called that. The other thing was, of course, the nature of this country as the United Kingdom, and that really has again frayed very much in the last couple of weeks. So we now literally are in a position where we've sleepwalked into different rules applying inside this United Kingdom. And how on earth has that happened, guys? I mean, how has
it's called devolution, isn't it?
Well, no, I don't think that's quite right. And just in the spirit of predictions that I got wrong, I also remember a podcast, I think just before New Year, where I said that everyone thought Keir Starmer was going to be leader of the Labour Party and they were very silly and they were going to all be shocked when he wasn't. So, hands up to that. I think that's slightly wrong, Joel, because I think we do need to accept that the virus is not equally applying to all parts of the United Kingdom, and actually, it is different in London as it is, from the Midlands and Manchester and Devon and the Shetland Islands and Glasgow, and that it probably is right that there is a difference in approach, not a huge difference, so that you're having people going out in pubs and restaurants in London, but not in Manchester, because I can see then that you'd have difficulties about enforcing that, but a recognition that this is, that different parts of the country are facing slightly different challenges.
Well, yes, but it seems like we've jumped into this position where it's just now assumed that Nicola Sturgeon speaks for Scotland, Drakeford, whoever his name is, Drake speaks for Wales. Both Sinn Féin, IRA, and the DUP speak for Northern Ireland, and I suppose Leo Varadkar. And then Boris,
is he still in government, by the way?
Yeah, unbelievable. We'll get our friend Andrew Ralph to answer that again. And then Boris seems to speak for England, but that is a de facto position that he speaks for England, and it's never been codified or anything of the sort. And I
think the fact that the NHS is a different institution in Scotland comes into some of it, and I believe that evolved whatever it's called. It's not
I mean, have we...
the devolved authority in Wales has some, but no, it's obviously it's palpable nonsense.
Okay, so
I think Nicola Sturgeon has been rather unseemly with this whole thing, but she's an unseemly woman, isn't she?
Was there another way to deal with this problem? Like that's my question. Like,
but the problem is,
was lockdown the only solution?
But you were calling for lockdown in like January, I mean.
No, in January we need to lock down because we need to stop this virus coming into this country, and it needs to be a proper lockdown, and then we'd have no virus here, and then we could secure our borders, and we'd be fine. We can get on.
I just don't understand how that on earth would work.
Well, how does this work? This hasn't worked. 2 months perpetual lockdown. We don't even know what's going to happen in the future. How does this work?
Stopping from China would have been good, and we didn't even talk about it, and we know why that was.
China they quarantined 50 million people in January. Yeah, everyone. It wasn't just lockdown. People weren't allowed outside their houses. Okay, the virus disappeared. It went. It's gone. Okay, so the only cases in China now are people coming back into China with the virus. There's no natural, that's what they say. The point is that this should have been done and dusted in 4 weeks.
Yeah, and on that note, I think this extra special return episode of Political Dregs should probably come to an end. If you want to see any more of this, then actually, give us some views and we might do it again. If not, see you in 2 months.
Cheers.
See you guys. Have a good lockdown.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much.
Let me start again.
But do we have friends?
Should we say hello to some friends of the show if we have any left? I don't think anyone. There's some people who are weirdly still liking our page on Facebook. We haven't done anything for 2 months, but. Is there anyone got anybody they want to say hello to?
Oh yeah, Lucy Mauer has been very helpful, a good counsellor and a good friend of the show, and
very good friend actually. She asked me what's happening with the Dregs. She wanted to watch some more. She said she loved it, and she helped me get the grant in Wandsworth. She's a Wandsworth counsellor. She connected the dots, and she made that happen really fast. So if she needs someone to come and campaign for her, I'm ready. I'm available. I'm no longer a Lib Dem, so let's go.
What?
Genuinely don't know if we have any other friends of the show, do we?
Yeah, I'll say hello to Gabriel Baroldi, who was asking when we're going to do another episode. So shout out to Gary Baldy.
I mean, I've not spoken to anyone for the past 2 months, so. Say hello to my cleaner, who I desperately want to come back to.
They're allowed to come back now, aren't they?
Yeah, well, mine works in a care home part-time, so it's not.